So we're looking today at Matthew chapter 23, and in this chapter Jesus proclaims 7 woes over the scribes and the Pharisees. And what I want to do is just zoom in on one of those, but just to put it in a little context. First of all, the scribes and the Pharisees, they were the religious elite of the day. They were the people that had all the power and the authority in the Jewish society. People looked up to them and respected them because of their position, and they were quite comfortable with the status quo. But Jesus gives them a vast majority of his criticism during his earthly ministry to the scribes and to the Pharisees, because what he could see was they weren't genuinely living for God. They were living for the fame, for the acclaim that came because of their position. They liked the glory, they liked the power, they liked being looked up to. They weren't doing it for God, they were doing it for themselves. So we're reading just a couple of verses. Matthew 23 verses 27 and 28. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. So what Jesus was getting at in these verses is that the Pharisees, they were all about the outward appearance. They were all about looking good, doing good things in the public eye, to be seen, to be good, looking holy, carrying around a super large Bible, putting on their Sunday best, making a visible scene of how great and how holy they were, filling their prayers with all the right holy buzzwords to sound super spiritual. But on the inside, they were dead. They didn't have a real personal relationship with God. They were just trying to impress others. They were trying to look holy rather than be holy. And Jesus calls them out for it. He describes them as whitewashed tombs. See, the thing with a tomb is you can make it look great and beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, it's full of decaying flesh and rotten bones. There's no life in a tomb. No matter how grand or how beautiful you try to make it look, at the end of the day, it's still a place of death. But the message of the gospel is that Jesus didn't come to make us just look good. Jesus came to bring the dead to life, to give us eternal life. So when we put our faith in Jesus, we're changed from the inside. We have life on the inside. And what Jesus calls us to do is to live a life that lets what's on the inside be reflected on the outside. Jesus doesn't want us just to focus on the outward appearance. He wants us to focus on the heart, on what's on the inside. He wants us to have a heart that's right with God, a heart that isn't dead but is alive, a heart that isn't focused on ourselves but is focused on living God's way, a heart that isn't just out to impress other people, but a heart that knows it's loved by the Father and that lets everything flow from that. See, ultimately at the end of the day, what's on the inside will come through to the outside. If it's death and decay, the whitewashed tomb will eventually start to crack. It'll fade away. It can't sustain itself. No matter how hard you try, it's still going to be a tomb full of death at the end of the day. Whereas if we are alive, that then will also flow out onto the outside. If we're living for God, if we've received the eternal life that Jesus came to give, that's going to impact every aspect of our outward life as well. We'll not be a whitewashed tomb. We'll be abundant life. We'll be full of joy. It reminds me too of 1 Samuel chapter 16, when David gets anointed as king and Samuel goes to see the sons of Jesse and eventually comes to find David, who was the smallest of the sons, the youngest son, the one that was overlooked. And this is what Samuel says to 7 of 1 Samuel 16. Do not look at his appearance or in the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. You see, it's possible to fool men by being a whitewashed tomb, by looking good on the outside, by doing the right spiritual things, by dressing the right way, by listening to the right music, by knowing all the key Christian phrases to say at the right times. But we can't fool God. God sees the inside. God knows the heart. And that's the challenge today, is to think, what's on the inside? Is there death or is there life? Let's pray.